Tat Priyajanaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahimam Vanchakopatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavibhyo Vaishnavibhyo. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Kadaha Chit Kalindi Tatavipina Sangita Kadavo Mudhabiri Narivadana Kamalasvada Madhuba Rama Shambhu Brahma Madapati Ganesha Chitapado Jagannatha Swami Noyana Patagami Bhavatume Jagannatha Swami Noyana Patagami Bhavatume. So we're very fortunate today that all of you guys have come to visit us. Generally on this day, we've been giving class about guru and disciple and speaking about different types of disciples. And I think we've had like 14 different sessions, something about that. But because you guys are with us today, we're going to be able to say a little something about Jagannath and Puri. So Jagannath Puri is a very mysterious place. Each Dham serves the Lord according to the particular desire that the Lord manifests there. For example, Ayodhya is a manifestation of Balaram, and it's meant to serve Bhagavan when he wants to have pastimes, which are his Maryada Purushottam. He's the topmost practitioner of Vedic culture. You know the word Maryada. When the Lord wants to enjoy Aishvarja Moya Lila, then Balaram manifests himself as Vaikuntha, and that perfectly enhances the Lord's pastimes. And when the Lord wants to enjoy his Madhurja Moya Lila, then in his Swayamrup form as Govinda, then Balaram manifests as Sri Vrindavan Dham. And when Krishna comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to manifest his Odarja Maya Lila, or his pastimes which are full of mercy and kindness, then Lord Balaram manifests himself as Nabadvip Dham. So then what is Jagannath Puri Dham? What is the nature of this place? Why did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come here? In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, I think he gives something like 14 verses as a Mangalacharna. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami loves Mangalacharna. He's written several verses explaining the Siddhanta of Mangalacharna, and he has a long Mangalacharna in the beginning. And then each and every chapter in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he has a new Mangalacharna. He's just really into Mangalacharnas. So in the 6th verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a very important verse, which we could say is the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita packed up in one verse. Chiradaya pranaya mahima kiddisovanaya swadyo yena bhuta madhurya sakyam chashamana bhava tikidvisam vitilobha tidbhava jasamajani sachi garba sindhu harindu. That Sri Krishna has come as the son of Mother Sachi, just like the moon arises from the ocean. So also Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come from the womb of Sachi Mata. He's Krishna himself. But although Krishna is Atmaram and Aptakam, he's completely self-satisfied. Still, he has 3 desires, 3 types of greed, which are not fulfilled which were unable to be fulfilled in Krishna Lila. That's a very chamatkar thing, isn't it? Very astonishing. How is it that Bhagavan, Krishna, Swayam Rup Govinda, who is Anadi Radha Govinda, and he has no cause, he's the cause of everything, he has desires which are not fulfilled? What desires are those? So my Guru Maharaj speaks about that. We printed a book called Embankment of Separation. And we're getting ready to reprint that. And he discusses in there that these three desires are described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in this verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidduso. Kidduso means what? He wants to know what is the Pranaya Mahima of Srimati Radharani. And that's a very, very esoteric, very high topic. But just like sometimes you're walking down a street, we're doing parikrama, and we don't have time to go to all the places, right? Maybe we're walking down toward the Jagannath Mandir coming from the ocean. And maybe I'll point and I'll say, down this road here is the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And we don't go there, but we just say, this is the road. So similarly, in this discussion right now, we're just kind of pointing sometimes at a road. And there's further things to be gotten there, but we don't have time for that now. So this, why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami uses the word pranaya. It's a very technical thing. Pranaya is one of the stages of prema. There's Sneha, Man, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, Ruda Mahabhav, Adi Ruda Mahabhav, Modanakya Mahabhav, Madanakya Mahabhav. Those are the different levels of prema. It's not so important for you to memorize. But those are different levels of prema. So why does he say pranaya? And why not some other type of, that's a big, very esoteric question. Interesting thing. So pranaya mahima, what is the glory of her love? Swadyo yena bhuta madhurima. What is it that she tastes in my beauty? What does she see in me? And sokyam chashamanana bhavatam. What happiness does she get? What kind of pleasure does she get from loving me? Krishna wants to understand that. And he couldn't fulfill those three desires. Now, where were those three desires fulfilled in Gaura Lila? According to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, they were fulfilled here in Jagannath Puri. They were not fulfilled in Navadvip. They were not fulfilled in South India when Mahaprabhu went there. They were not fulfilled even in Vrindavan when he was there. So what is so special about Jagannath Puri? So raise your hand. How many of you have been to Mayapur? Everybody's been to Mayapur? Okay. How many of you have been to Vrindavan? Okay. Wow. Everybody. How many of you have been to New York? Okay, that's good. Nobody's been to New York. You don't want to go. Vrindavan's much, much better. So you're all expert. You've been getting trained in IYF. You're very knowledgeable, special personalities. Actually, one of my friends who was living for a long time at Radhakund, he was a disciple of Jayapataka Maharaj. He's an ISKCON devotee, but he's an unusual thing to live at Radhakund. And he remarked to me once, he said, you know, there's so many Babajis at Radhakund, and they're very exalted persons, chanting the holy name and taking shelter of Radhakund. He said, but your average IYF devotee knows more shlokas and more Siddhanta than the average Babajis at Radhakund. That's the glories of IYF. That's the glories of Prabhupada's ISKCON, the training devotees. He said, they don't know Isopanishad. They don't know Bhagavad Gita very much. They're great souls, but don't get me wrong. But it's very special. You're very, very special personalities. So since you're all expert, you're IYF devotees, which makes you great personalities, and you've been to Mayapur, and you've been to Vrindavan, I have a question for you, okay? How many stones did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu melt? This is a stone right here, okay? If you don't understand my English. Right? This is a piece of the original Bhajan Kutir of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati here in Jagannath Puri. So how many stones did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how many stones did he melt in Mayapur, Navadvip? Who can say? Maharaj Prabhu says, he doesn't know of any. Okay, How many stones did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we're not talking about Krishna, don't be tricky, okay? How many stones did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu melt in Vrindavan? In Jharikanda, but how many in Vrindavan did he melt? We don't know of any. If you know of one, tell me about it. I'm very interested. How many stones did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu melt here in Jagannath Puri? We know of 4. In Amarnath, one is by the Garuda Stamba. So you're all very fortunate. I'm a murkha. I'm just a foolish person. Bideshi, Yavana Malacha. Only thing I know how to say in Oriya and Hindi practically is Bideshi Prabation Shade. And that's what I always hear when I go to the Jagannath Mandir. So you're a very good person, so you can go inside. And you can have darshan of the footprints of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he melted, standing next to the Garuda Stamba. Now those footprints, I'm told, have been moved, and they have a little shrine for them. And if you look in the Garuda Stamba, there's 3 fingerprints where Mahaprabhu melted his fingers. That's 2 stones. The 3rd stone, Prabhuji mentioned, and that's in Amarnath, Brahmagiri. And you won't have time to go there this time. So you have to come back, and maybe we'll take you to Brahmagiri. So many amazing places in Puri. So in Brahmagiri, and that's a very esoteric topic there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his Dandavat pranams before the 4-armed deity of Lord Narayan. Why is he getting so much ecstasy in front of the deity of Lord Narayan? That's another direction we're pointing. We wrote a whole magazine about that. We have a magazine, by the way. It's called Sri Krishna Katamrita. And this is our most recent issue about Giriraj Govardhan. And there's a couple of articles in this about Puri also. So when Mahaprabhu went to Brahmagiri, Amarnath, he offered his Dandavat offered his Dandavats in front of Amarnath, and he melted the stone with his whole body print. If you look at the print, it doesn't look like a body print exactly, but they can show you this is where his elbow was, this is where his hip was, this is where his knee was, this is where his head was. He was rolling on the ground. So it's not like, none of you have been in snow before, have you? I don't think so. Snow. Okay, maybe you've been to the Himalayas or something. I grew up with snow. And as a young boy, sometimes we would lay down in the snow and we would make what we call angels. You lay down and you move your arms like this, and it makes some form. So this stone in Amarnath is not like that. It doesn't look like a body print, but that's because he was rolling on the ground. And what's the 4th stone that he melted here in Jagannath Puri? Does anybody know? That was a Govardhan Shila, which was brought to him by one devotee from Braj. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was rubbing that stone, and he melted that stone. You can see that stone today in Vrindavan. So 4 stones in Jagannath Puri that he melted. Aside from that, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says that the ecstasy that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experienced here in Jagannath Puri, we've never heard of such ecstasy anywhere else. So then, what is this place? Is Puri like Vrindavan? Is Puri like Dwarka? Is it like Vaikuntha? What is the nature of this place? So we have an interesting discussion in this regard. I'd like to read you some verses in this regard. Because some Vaishnavas, they say that Jagannath Puri is like Vaikuntha, or some say it's like Ayodhya, some say it's like Dwarka, and some people say it's like Vrindavan. So which place is it like? So in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, it'd be nice if someone wanted to play mridanga, maybe even kartals. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur speaks about Jagannath Puri, and he says some amazing things. Say, I'll just sing these in Bengali, and then you can chant Hare Krishna in response. Sestanera prabhave yojana dasa bhumi kahate bashaye jata jantu kita krimi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Shabhare dekhaye chatubhuja deva gane, bhuvana mangala kori kahi yejestane. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Sestanera prabhave. You understand my badly pronounced Bengali? Huh? This place, Sestanera prabhave, it has this prabhava, it has this power, this strength in this place. Yojana dasa bhumi, this place which is 10 yojanas, yojana dasa. Tahate bashai jata janta kita krimi. That all the living entities here, even the krimis, even the insects and worms, the demigods, sabare dekaya chaturbuja devagana. They see everybody here is having 4 hands. And bhuvana mangala kori kahihe jeshtani. This place, they say, is the most auspicious place in the world. Okay, now I have another question for all of you. All right? Otherwise, you'll just go to sleep. I know. So, do you want 4 arms? Raise your hand. How many of you would like to have 4 arms? Think about the benefits. You can play the mridanga and the harmonium at the same time, or 2 mridangas or mridanga kartals, and think about taking prasadam. Wow. Okay, how many would you like to have 4 arms? Raise your hand. Okay. I don't want to disappoint you, but Srila Rupa Goswami disagrees. He says, no. We don't want that. If you want 4 arms, then you'll go to Vaikuntha. Just like sometimes people, they say, I want to be in a very peaceful place. That's good. If you go to the spiritual world and you want a peaceful place, you'll fall down from Vrindavan and you'll go to Vaikuntha. Because in Vrindavan, it's not so peaceful. Everybody's very, very disturbed about Krishna. They're always agitated, wanting him. So Rupa Goswami, he says, Siddhanta twaste BJP, Srisha Krishna Surupaya. That in terms of Siddhanta, Srisha and Sri Isha and Krishna, Sri Isha means Narayan, and Krishna, they're non-different. Chabeda Paramatma, they're non-different, they're both the Paramatma. But in terms of rasa, Krishna is superior. So our aspiration is that we want to have 2 arms, but everybody here, doesn't say anything about IYF devotees, but I presume that even the insects and worms and things, you guys are better than that. So that means also you have 4 arms. Now, in this place, Vrindavan Das Thakur goes on to describe one of the favorite verses of every brahmachari who comes to Jagannath Puri, and probably every IYF devotee. Okay? Nidrate ojestane samadhi phala koi, Sayane pranama phala jata bedi koi. Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nidrate ojestani. You understand nidra, right? That's everybody's favorite thing to do, right? Nidrate ojestani. Samadhi phala hoy. You get the benefit of being in samadhi. So I'll give you a tip. Tomorrow morning, you can sleep in till 9 o'clock in the morning. And Maharaj Prabhu comes and says, hey, what are you doing? Get up. Then you tell him, Prabhu, I heard in class, I'm in samadhi. Don't bother me. Go away. Yeah, but you're laying on your stomach. Hey, don't criticize. We also heard in Shastra, Shayane Pranama Phala Jatavedi Koi, that anybody who lies down in this place, they get the benefit of doing Dandavat Parikrama. It's very, very good. Oops. Pradakshina Phala Pai Korile Brahman Katamatra jata hoya mara stavan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just walking around in this place, production of follow, you get the benefit of circumambulating all the holy places. Just Korile Brahmana, just by walking around. And Kata Matra Jatahoy Amarastavam. Every word someone says in this place, that includes the Bengali tourists that you may hear sometimes, and the people playing some Hindi Bollywood songs and stuff, and you think, oh my God, why are they doing like that? Vrindavan Das Thakur, Krishna is saying that they get the benefit of offering prayers to me. Hena sheke trera ati prabhavani mala machakaile opaya havishira phala. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This place, Hena Sheketera Ati Prabhava Nirmala. It's so powerful. It's such a pure place, Nirmala, that even if you eat fish, then you get the benefit of eating Havishya. You know what Havishya is? Havishya is when you take some grains and you mix them with ghee and you put them in the sun and they become very, very pure. It's very much in the mode of goodness. And if you take Havishya, it's very good for your consciousness. And that Havishya they use to offer and sacrifice. So, Prabhuji, before you watch him, okay? I see now he's smiling. He likes this. Before he runs off and tries to find some fish to eat, I heard in the class, it's okay. It doesn't apply to you, okay? This applies to non-devotees. And when you smell that terrible smell, don't criticize him. Actually, Srila Prabhupada even wrote in one letter. He said the Pandas in Jagannath Puri, even though they sometimes eat fish, still Jagannath accepts their service. They're great personalities. We should respect them. But that doesn't mean that you can eat fish, Prabhuji. I know, he was thinking like that. Yes, we know what he was thinking. Because you're taking shelter of the holy name. And if you do that, that's called Nam Boli Pap Booty, right? Think I can, because I'm here with Maharaj Prabhu and the devotees, I can have very good puri, I can eat some nice fish. Don't think like that. It's very, very bad. You watch him, okay? So Krishna says, this is my place. This is such an important place. Right? But what is the nature of this place then? Everybody has 4 arms. And we don't want to have 4 arms. If you eat fish here, you get a spiritual benefit, or at least a mode of goodness benefit. He likes that idea, but the rest of us, we're not liking that idea. It's very bad. Badmash. So, what is the nature of this place? Everybody has 4 arms. Well, we've heard that there's 2 general moods, Aishvarja and Madhurja, right? There's opulence and there's sweetness. And it's said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Aishvarja, Priti Sunkachita. That Priti, that love that you have, Sunkachita. That Aishvarja makes it shrink. So then what is this place? And why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come here? Now, some people say, actually, Prabhupada says, our acharyas say, Vrindavanam Purityega Padikam Nagachati. Have you ever heard that statement? Yes. Krishna never even takes 1 step outside of Vrindavan. He never leaves Vrindavan. So some people say that in the same way that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, also Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never leaves Navadvip. Now, is it true that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan? Raise your hand. How many of you say it's true that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan? Okay. Well, I read a book. I'd like to tell you about this book. The book is called Krishna Book. Okay. And in that book, I read very clearly there's some fellow, his name was Akrura. And according to that book, He went to Vrindavan and he took Krishna away from Vrindavan. So how are you telling me Vrindavana Paritiga Padikam Nagachati? What does it mean? This is a very technical thing. Okay. Our acharyas, we sometimes we give a seminar on this where again we're pointing at a roadway toward the direction. We're not going to go in that direction now, but there's at least 4 different explanations I know of how it is that Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan. We're going to just look at one simple one, which is given in Harivamsa Purana, and it's addressed by Srila Prabhupada in his 10th canto of Purports. It's not mentioned by Prabhupada in Krishna book, but in the Harivamsa Purana, it says that Krishna appeared simultaneously, directly, as a son of Yashoda in Gokul. And at the same time, he made his Avirbhav, his Janma Leela, his appearance, his birth, and there's an important difference between these 2 words, right? Janma and Avirbhav. His Janma is in Gokul, but he had his Avirbhav in the prison of Kamsa, right? So what's the difference between these 2 words? When there's a Janma, it's very sweet. And the baby cries and everybody comes and so on. When there's an Avirbhav, we're all sitting in this room and all of a sudden, boom, there's a puff of smoke and somebody appears before all of us. Oh my God, right? That's pretty intense kind of thing, right? There's no sweetness in that. It's a big shock, right? So that Avirbhav in the prison of Kamsa in Mathura, according to Harivamsa Purana, and Rupa Goswami quotes this in different literatures, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Sarita Darshani commentary cites this. Prabhupada also quotes this, many of our acharyas, that it's not Krishna in Mathura, but it's his Vasudev expansion. And when Vasudev, the father, brings him across the Jamuna River, and he brings him to Gokul by the power of Yoga Maya, who is Yashoda's daughter. Vasudev couldn't see that Yashoda, he entered into the maternity room where Yashoda had just given birth. And Jiva Goswami and Gopal Champu says this, that by the power of Yoga Maya, Vasudev couldn't see that Yashoda had given birth to twins. He only saw a baby girl. He didn't see Nanda Nandan Krishna Swayam Rup Govinda, the son of Nanda Maharaj, was hidden there. So he placed that baby who was Vasudev Krishna. He appeared with 4 arms. It's really a good thing that he didn't take birth from Devaki. You can confirm this with your mothers, because I don't think any of you have wives or girlfriends. You shouldn't have, okay? Watch him, okay? And you can ask her, how would it be to give birth to a baby that had a crown, a metal crown on his head? It'd probably be pretty painful, pretty bad. And what if the baby had a club in one hand and a Sudarshan Chakra in the other hand? It would be really terrible, right? So Krishna, Vasudeva Krishna, his 4-arm form, he did his Avirbhav Leela. He appeared there in the prison of Kamsa, but there's no Janma Leela. The Janma Leela is in Gokul with Yashoda. And Krishna is directly the son of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. But very few people know that. Even in India, isn't it? Very few people know that. And Krishna is the son of Devaki also. He's the son of he's Devaki Nandan, but he's also Yashoda Nandan, especially for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. On Janmashtami, we'll probably speak some katha about that. We'll be going to Patamanda. So Vasudev placed down the baby Vasudeva Krishna, and Vasudeva Krishna entered into the body of Nandanandan Krishna. And for 16 full years, some Puranas say a little different, some say 14 or 12 or 16, whatever. 16 full years, Krishna didn't kill any demons. Krishna didn't kill Putana. Krishna didn't kill Vatsasura. Krishna didn't kill, there's a couple of demons that he personally dealt with. That's a very rusty kind of topic to discuss. But in general, Krishna didn't personally deal with the demons. It was Vasudeva Krishna. Prabhupada says this also. That Vasudeva Krishna inside, because Krishna's too busy with the gopis and Radharani. He doesn't want to have to go and kill demons. He doesn't have to go to the office to kill Bakasura or Trinavarta, this or that. He's just enjoying all this. So it's his expansion, Vasudeva Krishna, who does that. So now some Vaishnavas say that in the same way that Krishna, Vrindavana Paritiga Padikam Nagachati, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. When it seems that he leaves Vrindavan, it's the Vasudeva expansion who leaves. He goes with the Krura. And Nandanandan Krishna, Swayam Rup Govinda, he stays in Vrindavan. He never leaves. So some people say that in the same way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never leaves Navadvip. And when it seems that he leaves Navadvip and he comes to Jagannath Puri, that's just his Vasudeva expansion. Okay. Now, I have a postgraduate question for all of you. Okay? Very difficult. When Krishna went to Mathura, where did he stay? I'll give you a hint. There was no ISKCON guest house at that time. Where did Krishna stay? Very good. He stayed in the house of Kubja. Now, this is even a harder question. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Jagannath Puri, where did he stay? He stayed in someone's house. Whose house is that? Kashi Mishra. Now, who is Kashi Mishra in Krishna Lila? According to Gaura Ganadhish Dipika, it says, Iti Kechit Prabhasante Akura Keshava Bharati. There's the first point. That I jumped ahead of myself. Mathurayam Pura Yasit Sayindri. Sayindri is another name for Kubja. Sayindri Krishna Vallabha. Sadhya Nilacha Nilacha Avasa Kashi Mishra Prabhu Priya. That Kashi Mishra is Kubja became Kashi Mishra. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Krishna left Vrindavan, Akrura took him away. Right? You know that. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Navadvip, who took him away? Can anybody say? There was no trains then. Keshava Bharati, right? So who was Keshava Bharati in Krishna Lila? Iti Kecha Prabhasante Akrura Keshava Bharati. Akrura became Keshava Bharati. So we answered our question, okay? That just as Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also never leaves Navadvip. When it seems like Krishna leaves Vrindavan, it's just his Vasudeva expansion. He goes to Mathura. He's taken there by Akrura. And he stays in the house of Kubja. And so similarly, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves Navadvip, the same Akrura comes as Keshava Bharati, and he comes to Jagannath Puri, and he stays in the house of Kubja, who's become Kashi Mishra. So then Jagannath Puri is just like Mathura Dwarka, right? This is Shastric evidence. So are you all satisfied with that? Prabhuji's kind of a little nervous. He's saying no. He's not saying big no like this, but he's saying little no. Like that's what you do when you're not really sure. Am I going to get in trouble if I say no way? And maybe they're gonna smash me or something. And if I just say little no, then nobody will notice really. Right? So raise your hand. How many of you are satisfied that we can finish our kata right now? And maybe we'll give you all some sweets. How many of you are satisfied? Nobody's satisfied. Okay, well, we're online with Bhubaneswar IYF. How many devotees in Bhubaneswar IYF? Anybody want to raise their hand on Zoom and indicate you're satisfied? Amritesh Gaur Prabhu, are you satisfied? Amritesh Gaur is shaking his hand, no also. Leela Purushottam Prabhu is our friend. He's in Czech Republic. He's saying no way. All right, gosh, I thought I was going to finish right now and we could take some prasad and it'd be easy. Now you're making it harder for me. Okay, I'm also not satisfied. Because this doesn't fully satisfy us. How is it then, if this place is like Mathura Dwarka, that Krishna fulfilled his three desires as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this place? How is it that he melted 4 stones in this place? We've never heard of him melting stones in any other place. We've never heard of the ecstasies in this place. You can't read about the ecstasies that he experienced. Astasatyakara Bhav means 8 different types of ecstasies. But show me which one of those ecstasies is when the limbs of the body become elongated. They become disjointed. or the arms and legs shrink inside of the body. We've never heard of that. There's no shastra that speaks about that. Where does it say that water's coming out of their eyes like a syringe, like a squirt gun? We've never heard that. Blood is coming from the pores of the skin. All these symptoms Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was experiencing here, and he didn't experience them. We don't read about him experiencing these ecstasies in Navadvip, in Mayapur, or in Vrindavan. And we're not trying to say anything bad about those places. Each place has a little different position, and we're going to speak some more about that as we go along. So then, what is the special quality of this place? I'll tell you a little personal story. Some years ago, I was in Vrindavan for Kartik, and they asked me to give the Bhagavatam class. Now, that's a little scary in Kartik time in Vrindavan, because there was about 6 sannyasis there and a whole bunch of senior devotees and things, and you're feeling, who am I? Oh my God, So I really prepared. really nicely for the class. And then I went there. I'm okay. I prepared for the class, and I see Sachinanda Maharaj is there and a number of different sannyasis. And I looked at the board with the verse, and my stomach all of a sudden just shrunk inside my body. And I realized I prepared for the wrong verse. Oh my God. And it's like 2 minutes before the class. So I'm a very tricky person. And I went over to Sachinanda Maharaj and I said, Maharaj, I don't want to speak in front of you. You're a sannyasi. So you should give the class today. Why should I speak in front of you? I'm so duplicitous, right? And acting like I'm humble, but really I'm terrified. Oh my God, I didn't prepare, right? And Sachinanda Maharaj said, no, Madhavananda, I wanted to hear you. And that's why I came today. And then I said, Maharaj, I prepared for the wrong verse. What should I do? And then Sachinanda Maharaj, who is he's my uncle in our spiritual life, but he's also my dear, well-wishing friend. We spent about a month together. I was taking him around different places in Orissa and Puri. And so he told me, don't worry about it. Just say something about Jagannath Puri. Okay. And so I sat down and I spoke some things about how Puri, according to Shastra, is Gupta Vrindavan. Right? And the devotees, if you ever give class, and all of you actually should give class sometimes, because it's important. We should all speak Krishna Katha. You can tell when you're giving class, if they're kind of like this, that means they're not very interested, right? Especially if they're drooling, right? But if they're like this, that's a very good sign. That means they're really paying attention. They really listen. They're shaking their head like this. That's very good. Okay. So everybody was really into it. I finished the class and I noted out of the corner of my eye some devotee running. He'd come down the steps and he came running into the temple and kind of practically slid and landed right in front of me and put his arm up right away. And I have a question. And that devotee, maybe some of you have heard of him before. His name is Ayendra. And he was very annoyed with me. How can you say this about Jagannath Puri, that it's like Vrindavan? And he said, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Jagannath Puri, his ecstasy increased 100 times more than when he was in Puri, when he was going to Vrindavan, as soon as he left. And when he entered into Mathura, his ecstasy increased 1,000 times more than that. And when he entered into Vrindavan, his ecstasy increased 100,000 times more. Ha! He said like that. So I have great respect for Ayendra Prabhu. He's one of the saints in our movement. A very, very wonderful, special devotee. And he's very much into this Braj Bhav. And we respect that. So he said like that to me. And I said, that's okay. I said, but I have a question for you. Why didn't he stay in Vrindavan? And why did he go back to Jagannath Puri? And he became quiet. So here's a really postgraduate question for all of you. I don't know how many of you have ever read Bhakti Ratnakar by Narahari Chakravarti Thakur. It was a book very dear to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and it's quoted by Bhaktivinoda in his commentaries on Amrita Prabha Bhashya, commentary on Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also by Srila Prabhupada in many places. He says that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan, he stayed in a certain place. Do you know what that was? I'll give you a hint. It's not MVT. Where did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stay? Does anybody know? Huh? No. He did go to a Kurughat, but he didn't stay there primarily. I'll give you a hint in English. One word. Tamarind. Imlital. Very good. Very sharp devotees. That's really good. So you know the story about Imlital? I think maybe you should. He said Imlital right away. So Imlital, I'm not going to tell a long story about that, but it's a little story. So Imlital is a place in Braj, which is famous in Dwarpar Yuga. That Sriman Rasa Rasadambi Vamsivata Datasita Karshan Venusanar Gopi Gopinata Sri Estunaha. We recite this prana mantra to Gopinath. That there at Vamsivat, Krishna was playing his flute and calling the gopis. And the gopis came there and they did Ras Leela. But Radharani became annoyed. Why did she become annoyed? Okay, this is one of our side streets. We're going to look down. We're not going to go that way, but we're looking down. It's a very interesting topic. Why did she become annoyed? She became annoyed and she left the Ras Leela. And then one of the names of Radharani is Rasa Biharani. She's the heroine of the Ras Leela. If there's no Radharani, there's no Ras Leela. Doesn't matter however many other gopis are there. So when Radharani left, Krishna became very sad. He forgot about all the other gopis. And Krishna left and he began searching for the gopis on the bank of the Jamuna. And he came to a place called Imlital, where there was a tamarind tree. And Krishna was crying for Radharani. He was chanting, Radhe, 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 Radhe. And he sat down underneath that tamarind tree and something happened to him. His Shama Varna, his blackish complexion, became like Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, became golden like Radha because he was thinking so much about her. So that was 5,000 years ago. 500 years ago, the same Krishna returned to Vrindavan. Only now, Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam, Nomi Krishna Swarupam. He's Krishna, but he's in the mood of Radha, and he has the complexion of Radha. And he went to the same place, to Imlital. And he sat down under the tree, and he wasn't chanting Radhe, Radhe, because he's in the mood of Radharani. The gopis don't chant Radhe, Radhe. If the gopis go to Radharani, he starts chanting Radhe, Radhe, Radharani will say, what are you doing? Stop that. Stop making that noise. Chant Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. This is why in our sampradaya, we primarily chant the name of Krishna. If you chant the name of Radha, what happens? Something very amazing. In the Brahma-Vaivarta Purana, I can't remember the shloka. Anyway, Krishna says, if someone chants the name of Radha, I come running there. I become ecstatic and I go running after that person. Krishna will personally come if you chant the name of Radha. Maybe someone should write a letter to the GBC, because they said we shouldn't chant the name of Radha, except on Radhastami some days. Right? That's pretty good. Krishna will come. Once someone said to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Guru Maharaj, you have a disciple here at Radhakund. He's so advanced. He's just living at Radhakund. And he's so advanced, he stopped chanting Krishna's name. And now he's just chanting Radhe, 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 Radhe. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta replied, oh, that's very good. You know, if you do that, Krishna will personally come if you chant the name of Radha. He said, but we have a better program. We chant the name Krishna. And who comes running then? Radharani. Because in our line, Radharani is primary. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Radha. He went to that Imlital. He's not chanting Radhe, Radhe. He's chanting Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. And something happened. He started meditating so much on Krishna. His Gora Varna, Gora Sundar became Shama Sundar. His golden complexion went away and he became blackish. And he thought, this is really bad. I came here to Vrindavan to taste Radharani's mood. But now, because Radharani's mood is so intense, and because Vrindavan is a place of Milan, Sambho, you understand my words? Union. When Radharani's mood is present there, Jai Rupa Chinte Dasi Se Rupa Hoy, Vrindavan Das Thakur says, whatever mood the devotee has, the Lord manifests a form corresponding. And Radharani's mood is so powerful that when he goes to Vrindavan, he's chanting the name of Krishna, Krishna, then he becomes Krishna. And he thinks this is really bad. The golden complexion is gone. Next thing you know, I'm going to have a flute and they're going to put a peacock feather on my head. And then I can't taste the mood of Radharani. So he had a dilemma. Here's his dilemma. He has to be in Vrindavan, right? Because he wants to taste the mood of Radha. And Radharani, you don't see Radharani walking the streets of New York City or Paris or London, right? She doesn't leave Vrindavan. Krishna may leave Vrindavan. I don't know. There's some rumors. But Radharani leave Vrindavan? Never. We cannot understand it. So he has to be in Vrindavan. But it can't be Vrindavan. Because in Vrindavan, then the mood of Krishna comes. So he had to go to a place which is two opposites in one container. And what did he do? He left Vrindavan and he came back to Jagannath Puri. And although Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, as Ayendra Prabhu correctly pointed out, his ecstasy when he left Puri for Vrindavan increased 100 times. When he entered Mathura, it increased 1,000 times more. When he entered Vrindavan, 100,000 times more. But he returned him to Jagannath Puri. And when he returned to Jagannath Puri, his final pastimes in the Gambhira, his ecstasies are like they're off the charts. They're much, much greater than anything he experienced in Vrindavan or anywhere else. Why is that? That's back to our original question, isn't it? So if some of you have the misfortune, everybody thinks it's a great fortune. I know it used to be in India that people would save money their entire life so that one time they could go to Jagannath Puri, or one time they could go to Bhadrak Ashram, or Dwarka, or Vrindavan, isn't it? They would save, and they would walk. It was a big thing. And they would consider their life to be perfect. It's kind of like the Muslims going on Hajj, right? They go to Mecca at least once in their life. So the same thing is going on today, but things have changed. Now people are saving their money, and the Indian people are thinking, they're not thinking to go to Jagannath Puri or Dwarka. They're thinking, if I can just go one time to New York City, and I'll collect the dust. And I'll go to the big bowl on Wall Street, and I'll offer my obeisances. Because when you go to the Tirtha, you offer obeisances to Bhagavan, right? So people are not interested in Krishna Bhagavan now. They're interested in a different Bhagavan. Who is that? Paisa Bhagavan. They go to the Wall Street and they bow down. Like that. Very sad, isn't it? So if you happen to go to America like that, I hope you don't go with that kind of mood. Actually, it's a good place to make money. But things are changing in the world. India may be a better place very soon. And people are a lot nicer here, I think, in my humble opinion. But if you happen to go to America, it's a big place. How are you going to find your way around? You might want to buy a book. And there's a special book. I can advertise it. It's called Rand McNally. It's a particular atlas. It's very important. You should write that down. If you go to America, you can buy it. It's a map book, and they have maps of every city and every state all over the place. So you know where you're going. So now if we want to understand different spiritual places, we should look in a map book, right? So Sanatana Goswami, he's made a map book. And what is that map book? What is the name of it? Does anybody know? It's called Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he describes the amazing journey of this guy called Gopakumar. And he goes to Mahalok, Tepalok, Janalok, Shivalok, Indralok. He goes to all over the places. Then he goes to Vaikuntha, he goes to Ayodhya, he goes to Dwarka. He goes to so many different places. And each place we hear something about that place. And each place that he goes to, he thinks, this is it. And this is my Gopal. Because he's actually a cowherd boy. It's a long story. But he's a cowherd boy who was born at Govardhan. And someone gave him this Gopal mantra, didn't explain it to him. And he's always trying to find who's the deity of this Gopal mantra. And so he's going to all these different places. He goes to Vaikuntha. There he is. It's my Gopal. And he sees Lord Narayan. And he just wants to serve Lord Narayan. And people come to him sometimes saying, you know, the way you're dressed, we don't do that here. Okay. You're just like a cowherd boy at Govardhan. We don't do that here. And you need 4 arms. And Gopal Kumar just said, well, you know, that's really not my style. You know, I'm not into that. And he's kind of avoided it. And he was staying with Lord Narayan. And he was at Lord Narayan all the time. And life was really good. And then it got to be dark, nighttime. And Lakshmi Devi's kind of looking at her wristwatch and making this little sound and looking at the door and looking at Gopal Kumar. And then Gopal Kumar just said, oh, I have to leave now. It's not appropriate for me to be here. And he was feeling sad. He thought, this is really bad. And in the topmost place, he thought Vaikuntha was the topmost place. But it's not. I'm not satisfied. And at that time, Narad Muni came and said, hey, buddy, come here. He said, there's a better place than this. Really? A better? Oh my God, what is that? He said, it's called Ayodhya. You should go there. Okay. And so he went to Ayodhya and life was good. And he saw Lord Ramachandra, and Lord Ramachandra was with Lakshman and Sugriv and Hanuman. And the devotees, they had this friendship with Lord Ramachandra. But the mood of that friendship, they were afraid of him. It was full of awe and reverence. And Gopal Kumar wasn't very satisfied with that. So he was thinking, boy, I'm really in Maya. You know, this is terrible. I'm in the topmost place, but I'm not satisfied. And then one day, Narad Muni came and said, hey, come here. I got something to tell you. What is it? There's a better place than this. Really? What's that? It's called Dwarka. Wow. Okay. Yeah. And so he went to Dwarka and life was really good in Dwarka. He sometimes saw Krishna playing a flute with the cows. But then other times there are all these Brahmins on the street and they're all chanting, Om Sahasra Sirsa Purushaha Sahasra Sirsa Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat Sabhumindishvato Britya Achatista Dasangulam. They're chanting Sahasra Purusha Shukta, different mantras. And Gopal Kumar is singing, I don't want a Lord with 1,000 heads and 1,000 hands and eyes. That's not, I want to see him in a simple form. And after some time, he's walking through the street one day. Just like once I was here in Jagannath Puri, and one of my friends came to me. I was standing right in front of the Jagannath Mandir. I said, Prabhuji, do you have a change for 1,000 rupees? I said, yeah, let's go somewhere. I'll give. He said, no, just give it to me here. And I said, I don't think it's a good idea to do it. No, don't worry about it. Okay, so in public, I changed the money with him. And then we went walking, and this is a true story. We're walking just a few meters away, and there's an alleyway there. And all of a sudden, somebody came out and he said, hey, would you like some special pictures of Jagannath? Come in the alley. And I told my friend, I said, you know, if we go in that alley, something bad's going to happen to us. I can see. It's like that in the big cities. You have to be careful. So Gopal Kumar was walking. He heard a voice from a dark alley. Hey, psst, come here. And he looked in the alley, and there was Narad Muni. Narad Muni, you're here in Dwarka. What's going on? And then Narad Muni spoke this verse, and it appears in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Kintu padesham hitam ekam etam matashinu shri purishautam kakyam kshetram tadatrapi debatya dure purvam tvayad bhuvi drishtamasti. He said, listen, Kintu padesham hitam ekam etam. I'm going to give you some advice. But don't tell this to anybody else here because they'll become disturbed. They think that Dwarka is the best place. But there's another place which is higher than this place, which is better than this place. And what is that place? Matashri Purushottamakyam. It's known as Jagannath Puri. He said, you were there before. And he said, there in Jagannath Puri, you'll find three things. In the Garga Samhita, usually I quote this verse before I'm getting excited and we're just rambling all over the place, telling Ayendra stories and whatever, excuse me. But in the Garga Samhita, it's described that when the demigods came to see Krishna and in Goloka Vrindavan, they said, look, we have this big problem. There's so many demons and you got to come. Krishna said to Tastya, I'm going to come. Don't worry about it. And then Radharani was sitting and she didn't say anything. She was being quiet. And then Krishna said, hey, Radhe, after the demigods left, what's wrong? And Radharani said, anyway, you're Swarat. You're independent. You can do whatever you want. I can't control you. She said, but I have to tell you, if you leave me here and you go to the material world, then I'll die. And Krishna said, no, 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 no. You'll also come with me. And then Radharani, she spoke this verse. What? Yasmat? Yatra Bindabanam Nasti. She's good. Yatra Bindabanam Nasti. Yatra no Govardhan Nasti. Tatra me, Yatra no Jamunu Nadi. Tatra me namanasuk. I have no manasuk, no happiness. Marcus, you can write this down. Where these three things are not present. The Vrindavan forest, Govardhan Hill, and the Jamuna River. Right? Radharani, that's her words. I don't want to go with you if these three things are not present. Krishna said, don't worry about it. It's okay. We're going to bring those three things with us. And Vrindavan Dham manifested in this world. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the same mood of Krishna. So why is he going to come here to Jagannath Puri? Where is the Vrindavan forest? Where is the Jamuna River? Where is Govardhan Hill? But when Narad Muni spoke to Gopakumar, this is our map book, right? This is the book which tells us what's what. He told Gopakumar, Kintupadesham hitamekametam, Matashinushi Purushottamakyam, that I'm going to give you this one instruction. Not very far from here, there's a place known as Purushottam Kshetra. So he goes on then to describe Purushottam Kshetra. Listen carefully. Tasmin Subhadra Balaram Samyutas Tamvai Vinodham Purushottamo Bhajet Chakre Sagovardhana Brindakatavi Kalinda Jatira Bhuvi Swayamayam. He said, there with Balaram and Subhadra, you'll find Jagannath. And you'll find three things: the Vrindavan forest, Govardhan Hill, and the Jamuna River. Now, at this point, you may say, oh, he's just saying this because he lives in Jagannath Puri. And anyway, this is what the Gaudiya Vaishnavas say. But we should hear Shastra. You may not accept Brihad Bhagavatamrita and Sanatana Goswami. Rascal, but must. And he says, I want to hear from the Vedas. I want to hear from some tantric literatures. He likes tantric things. So in Vaishnav Tantra, it said, Mathura Dwaraka Lila Yakorochita Gokule Nilachalastita Krishnasta Eva Rachati Prabhu. That whatever pastimes, and this is another side street that we could go down and speak a lot about. This verse is a very deep verse. Whatever pastimes you find in Mathura, Dwarka, and Gokul Vrindavan, you'll find all of them in Jagannath Puri. I gave some kata about this, how all the pastimes in Braj are found in Jagannath Puri. And what does that mean? It's a very deep thing. So again, in the Purusha Bodhini Shruti is part of the Atharva Veda. It's quoted by Rupa Goswami in the beginning of Ujjwal Nilamani. And it's a Shruti here in Orissa, which has a tradition. It's one of the few Shrutis in India which still has a living tradition, meaning people memorize the entire book. And this Purusha Bodhini Shruti is part of the Atharva Veda, and it speaks a lot about Jagannath Puri. And one of the things it says there, Jata Bhargavi Jamuna, Govardhana Ratna Samasana, Bimala Sudosa Chandika Sudosa Gopyaha. That in Jagannath Puri, you'll find the Bhargavi River goes around Jagannath Puri, just in the same way that the Jamuna goes around Braj. And that Yata Bhargavi Jamuna, that Bhargavi River is non-different from the Jamuna. You may have passed it when you came in. There's a place called Dandabanga. Chandanpur is a small town there on the bank of the Bhargavi River, and Dandabanga is there. So that Bhargavi river is non-different from the Jamuna. Jata Bhargavi Jamuna, Govardhana Ratna Simhasana. The Ratna Singhasan, that throne that Lord Jagannath sits on. And I'm told by many devotees that when you go to have Jagannath Darshan, I'm not going, but when you go, don't go too close. Because they say that Jagannath Singhasan that he sits on is made out of over 1 million Shaligram Shilas. And it's considered to be non-different from Govardhan. And we also wrote a long article in this magazine about how Chatak Parvat is also considered to be like Govardhan. But why it is, this is another side street, we're just pointing in the direction. Why is it that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't walk on Govardhan in Braj when he went there, but he walked on Chatak Parvat here? You accept that because Mahaprabhu saw it as Govardhan. He really thought that it was Govardhan and he walked on it. And that's a side street. I'm not going to go down there. If you get the magazine, you can read about it. And that's a whole nother topic. So this place is known as Gupta Vrindavan. It's described by Sachi Mata, the mother of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. She's a great authority. Nilachala, Nabadvipe, Jay Duigar. That Nabadvip Dham and Jagannath Puri Dham are 2 rooms in the same house. And Srila Prabhupada, he writes in one purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, it's right here. He says, living in Jagannath Puri is as good as living in Vrindavan. This is Prabhupada's purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can write it down. Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 132. Okay, Madhya 22, 132. Okay, he says, living in Jagannath Puri is as good as living in Vrindavan. The conclusion is, Prabhupada said, this is a conclusion. The conclusion is that Navadvip Dham, Jagannath Puri Dham, and Vrindavan Dham are identical. Is that true? Who says it's true? Okay, but why is it true? Because Prabhupada said it, then we just have to accept that? Okay, if it's true, where's Radhakund? If this is Vrindavan, if it's non-different, it's identical. There, we know in Navadvip, in Mayapur, there's a Radhakund and Shamakund. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta established. You've been there, I think. There's a Govardhan Hill. So where's the Radhakund and Shamakund here? How is this place Vrindavan Dham? How is it non-different from it? You have a house. You have a house. You live with your parents, I think, perhaps. Yes? Okay, so in your house, you have different rooms, right? Yeah, you have a bathroom, you have a kitchen. You do different things in those 2 rooms, right? I hope so. Otherwise, I'll never eat in your house. Okay, so you have different rooms in the house, but it's the same house, right? But the rooms serve a different purpose. So Nilo Chalda Navadvipa Jay Dvigar. Sachimata said that Navadvip and Jagannath Puri are 2 rooms in the same house. That house is Braj, Vrindavan. These 3 places, Prabhupada says, the conclusion is that Navadvip Dham, Jagannath Puri Dham, and Vrindavan Dham are identical. But how are they identical? They're different rooms in the same house. They look very, very different. Mayapur looks very different. The weather's very different. About this in the beginning. It's a place of sweetness. And Navadvip Dham is Odarjamoyi Dham. It's also Vrindavan, but it's a chamber of Vrindavan where things are very, very kind, very, very merciful. Then what is Jagannath Puri Dham? It's described again by Srila Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Shri Krishna Deva Sada Priham Tat Ketram Yata Shri Mathura Tataiva Tat Paramaishvarya Bada Prakasha Lokanusari Vyavahara Ramyam. That this Jagannath Puri, it's just as dear to Krishna as Braj Mandala, Mathura Mandala. Just as Mathura Vrindavan is very dear to Krishna, So also is Jagannath Puri. But this place, Tat Param Aishvarya, Bara Prakasha. Bara means very big. And Tat Param Aishvarya. There's so much opulence in this place. But he says then, Lokanusari Vyavahara Ramyam. It's also Ramyam. It's also very, very charming. Here in Jagannath Puri Dham, you'll find three qualities. In Vrindavan, you find it's Madhurja Moyidam. It's a place of sweetness. Navadvip Mayapur is a place of mercy and kindness. In Jagannath Puri, you'll find three things. There's great Aishvarya. This is not the Jagannath Mandir here. It belongs to someone else. It's the Sri Mandir. It belongs to his wife, Lakshmi Devi. Mm-hmm. And this is a place of so much opulence. So you'll find so much opulence here, but you'll also find so much mercy here. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's known as Gajapati Tarana because he delivered Gajapati Maharaj Prataparudra. He's known as Sarvabhauma Shodhana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives these names. Sarvabhauma Shodhana means a person who purified Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Jagannath is known as Patit Pavan, and he stands in the doorway to the temple. I've never heard Radharaman doesn't stand in the doorway waiting for the Bideshis to come. But Patit Pavan Jagannath does. And there's so many stories we could tell you. We made a magazine also just about Patit Pavan Jagannath. And all the story about the origin of Patit Pavan Jagannath and so many different stories about him. So this is a place of great opulence. It's a place of great mercy. And there's a third quality. In the Gambhira, where we go tomorrow, it's a place of great sweetness. But that sweetness, that ramyam, that charming sweetness is covered over by the opulence and covered over by the mercy. So we say that Jagannath Puri Dham, it's many things for many people. Some people see it like Vaikuntha, and it's correct. It's like Vaikuntha. Some people see it like Dwarka. I gave good examples, right? That Kashi Mishra is Kubja, and this is like Mathura. We give so many examples of that. But it's also a place of sweetness. And it's a place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was able to taste the mood of Radha. Because this place is two opposites in one container. It's Vrindavan, but it's not Vrindavan. It's a chamber of Vrindavan. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, this is Gupta Vrindavan, this is Vipralamba Kshetra, or Chaitra, depending where you're from in India. It's a place of separation. This place is considered to be like Kurukshetra. In Kurukshetra, the Brijbasis and the Gopis are meeting with Krishna, but they're not happy. They're saying, we don't want to see you with all these warriors and horses and elephants and gold and jewels and everything. We want you in Vrindavan. So Chalo Baba, let's go. Well, they want to take him back to Vrindavan. That generally, opulence makes love shrink. Aishvarya, Priti, Sankuchita. But the opulence that Krishna manifested in Kurukshetra, when the gopis saw him, it didn't make their love shrink. It increased their desire. It increased their feelings. This is Jagannath Puri. When the Lord manifests opulence here, it increases the intense desire of the devotees. And therefore, my Guru Maharaj said that Lord Jagannath is Aishvarya Madhurja Yugala Milan Sri Jagannath. He's a combined form of both opulence and sweetness. And this place is an abode which is a combination of great opulence and sweetness. I sometimes call the people, everybody wants to come to Puri, and they see it for so many different reasons. Nowadays, there's many Bengali tourists who come, and they come to eat nice fish and go swimming on the beach and meet pretty girls and whatever. And sometimes maybe they're very pious. They go to the Jagannath Mandir. And other people come because they think that Lord Jagannath is Ramachandra, or even sometimes they think he's Lord Shiva. They think so many things. They come for so many different reasons. But why does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come? And what do we get out of Puri? What do we see in Puri? Why do we come to Puri? I have a little box, just like the devotees gave me this beautiful picture. I'll show you. Can you see Amritesh Gaur Prabhu? This is a printout, a photo of the original handwriting of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his Gora Artik. And they put it in a nice frame. So when you have a nice frame for something, it looks more beautiful and you can understand it. You have a context for it. So I have a frame that I've made with words to describe Jagannath Puri Dham. We say that Jagannath Puri, this is the Jagannath Puri University of Braj Prem. It's a school that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened to teach us how to do bhajan to attain Vrindavan. Because Araja Bhagavan Bhajay Satanyas Tadama Vrindavan. Krishna is the topmost form of the Lord, and Vrindavan is the topmost abode. Our acharyas is not saying, I want to go to Jagannath Puri when I leave my body. I want to even go to Navadvip. They want to go to Vrindavan. And they may appear in more places than one. At the same time, that's a very difficult thing to understand. It's another topic. This is a Jagannath Puri University of Braj Prema. Just as when you go to the university, there's many different classrooms, and each different classroom has a different subject. So in this university, this Dham, there are many different classrooms, and the classrooms are different tirthastalis. And each different tirthastali has a different lesson for us to teach us how to go to Vrindavan. I'll just speak about one of those and we'll finish our discussion today. The first tirthastali, the first classroom in Jagannath Puri is the Jagannath Mandir. That's the first place Mahaprabhu came when he arrived in Puri. And what is the lesson there? There's several lessons. I won't go into that in depth. It would take too long. But one of the main lessons is that God always supports organized religion. The Jagannath Mandir represents organized religion. Now, how many of you like organized religion? Just the idea of organized religion. Does it sound good? Raise your hand. Okay. You're very pious and you have a good experience, I think. In America, I ask that question many times to new people and nobody raises their hand because nobody basically likes organized religion like that. And many times, honestly, even I hear devotees sometimes complaining about ISKCON. I'm saying it because I'm an ISKCON devotee. Oh, it's too stiff, it's too mechanical. They say like this or this. I like something more personal, more sweet. Actually, we should have both. And that's the point I'm coming to in a moment. But the Jagannath Mandir also has problems. They have big problems. They don't let Haridas Thakur inside the temple. They don't let Rupa and Sanatana Goswami inside the temple. There's politics going on. There's people, very greedy people. You'll find out. Have you been to the Jagannath Mandir yet for darshan? They like to see you. ISKCON devotees means money, right? Especially if you have white skin. They think that it used to be, as my friend Dino Bandhu Prabhu says, that everyone in India saw you as Atma, ATMA, right? But now they drop the last A and I become an ATM machine. It's a fact. And so the Pandits are very, very greedy for that. But in spite of all those problems, in spite of all the troubles which always come with organized religion, even in IYF, I'm sure you guys all look really happy, but I'm sure sometimes there's a little politics or someone saying something bad about somebody else. Does that ever happen? I hope it doesn't happen. Please don't do that. But it may happen sometimes. It happens everywhere. But still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us that we should always support organized religion. And Lochan Das Thakur in his Chaitanya Mangal, he says that 4 times a day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to the Jagannath Mandir to have darshan, to teach us that we should support organized religion. So that's one of the classrooms in Jagannath Puri. And there's other classrooms that teach us how to survive organized religion. Because that's also a challenge. It's not so easy. You guys are all coming together, you're going on parikrama together, right? So it's not so easy. What if 3 of you have to use the bathroom? Maybe you really have to use the bathroom, oh my God. And there's a queue amongst everybody, right? It's a difficult thing. It's not so easy. Or maybe you just don't really feel like going out with the devotee. You're tired, but the other devotees are really excited and they want to go. So you have to go along with them. That's the nature of groups, right? Huh? So how do we survive that and still support that? That's something we'll speak something more about tomorrow. We go to Siddha Bakul and to Gambhira. So I want to go ahead and stop there. And I want to ask the devotees if they have any reflections. And why don't we start with Krishna, because he always has some reflections. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, I can hear you nicely. Yes.
Can you say something? I want to hear how loud you can talk, if everybody here can hear you or not.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible nicely?
Yeah, okay, I'm going to plug it back in. I'm going to just have to repeat what you say. This is a problem I'm having with the setup. See, I switched to my iPad, which the camera is it's a lot easier sitting here where we are today. But nobody can hear you in the room. So I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for explaining in more detail. This question I also asked you in this GGC base inauguration, and you told that we will talk this on some other day. And today we got this opportunity because of that I have Kolkata batch for the game. And one point we all like that why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resided in Puri, that I understood. Because in Imlital example, you told how he could not persist with his own form when he was Krishna or when he was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he went to Imlitala, he could not do it. So he resided in Puri to serve in the mood of separation, because in the mode of union he cannot serve. And one point is that this Puri Mahatma is tells that Jagannath Puri is not different from Vrindavan, or this is even better than all other. In Navadip Mahatma also they say that Navadip Dham has all other dhams. Like you told, in Puri there are all other tirthasthans. So similarly, Navadip Mahatma also they say it's all they have all other dham. In Vrindavan Mahatma also it is already there. So in this way they are not different, I understood. But at the same time, a devotee may have attachment towards one of these particular dhams. So is that offensive?
Okay, let me repeat that, because all the poor devotees are sitting here and they can't hear what you're saying. I'm sorry for that. If somebody's expert with Zoom and with iPads, you can help me afterwards, maybe. Anyway, he's asking a question. He kind of summarized some of the points we were making. And he said that, so we appreciate these three dhams are non-different, Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan Dham, and Navadvip Dham. But still, is it offensive if a devotee prefers one out of the three? Of course, it's not offensive. It's natural. It's human. And we should be human. If someone tells you, I like everyone, and you say, well, don't you have someone you like more? No. Everybody's equal to me. I'm friends with everyone. That means you're a Mayavadi. Right? That's what it means. Right? But no, certain people are more dear to you. Certain people are more special to you. I have my mother's picture over there on the altar. She's very, very dear to me. I'm a mamachari. He's a brahmachari. I'm a mamachari. So we have certain people who are very dear to us. And that's natural. That's human. And also the dhams. Once we asked our Guru Maharaj, why don't you go to Vrindavan? And Guru Maharaj said, I have my dham that I like. Our Guru Maharaj, Srishinath Govinda Maharaj, he said, I like Jagannath Puri. I like Sri Kshetra, Jagannath Puri. That's my favorite place. So there's nothing offensive with that, but we should understand. In the same way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a nice example. I think this is in Krishna Samhita, or maybe, is it the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya? What's that book, Krishna Khan? Anyway, that he says that when you go to a different religious place, you go to a mosque and you see they're worshiping the Lord, or you go to the Christian church and you see them worshiping, you go to a Buddhist temple and you see them worshiping Buddha. A devotee should think, this is my Lord. This is my Lord. But they're worshiping him in a different kind of way. So in the same way, the devotees, they may have a particular dham they like the best. For me, I really like Jagannath Puri, but we like to see it as Vrindavan. and we like to speak about Braj Leela in Jagannath Puri. Prabhupada, in one lecture in 1972 in Vrindavan, in Nectar Devotion, he said that there's two moods, the Smarta Vichar and Goswami Vichar. And I picked up on those two phrases, very important phrases. Here in Jagannath Puri, we find these two considerations, Smarta Vichar and Goswami Vichar, the consideration of the Smarta Brahmins. And we hear, what is the Bengali book? My brain's not working. Krishna Kun. Huh? The book about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his teachings. No, by Bhaktivinoda
Thakur or by Bilamangal Thakur?
By Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bilamangal Thakur didn't write about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
Why is not anyway?
That English book is Leela Purushottam
Bengali book.
Life and Precepts of
No, the Bengali book.
Bengali.
Oh, what is it? I'm going to beat my house. It's the most common book. Everybody knows it. Krishna Kun. Okay, you don't know. Anyway, he said there that this thing.
You mean Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Prabhu?
Yes, thank you. Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Everybody should know. Very simple thing. Thank you. Thank you, Leela Purushottam Prabhu. So, I forgot what I was speaking about Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Anyway, these Goswami Vichar, yes, that there's two considerations, the Smarta Vichar and Goswami Vichar. And we find in Jagannath Puri, there's so many people have the Smarta Vichar, and they're quoting from Skanda Purana and different literatures that there's 5 tirthas you have to take bath in, and this, and so many things. But in Goswami Vichar is a different consideration. When the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived in Puri, we read about in the 11th chapter of the Madhya Leela, they didn't go to take bath first. They didn't go to see Lord Jagannath first, which is what all the pilgrims do. But they immediately went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they took Mahaprasad from his hands. This is Goswami Vichar. And there's a different world in Jagannath Puri. The people who see from the Smarta Vichar, they see a certain perspective. And they see that Jagannath, he's the Lord of the universe, and everything's very, very opulent. But the Goswami Vichar is a different consideration. They see that Jagannath is Krishna, Vrindavan Bihari Krishna. And that's a long thing. So we can respect all three. We should respect all three. If we don't respect all three, then there's something wrong. But Amritesh Prabhu is pointing out, we may have some favorite. Okay, is that all right, Amritesh Prabhu? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else online have anything real quick? Otherwise, I want to turn to the devotees here in the room. And it's going to be a little difficult maybe for speaking.
Yes.
Anybody? Okay,
Yes.
Leela Purushottam Prabhu.
I would just, I would like to continue with that question actually, because
Okay, I'm going to repeat whatever you say. I'm going to repeat whatever you say, basically, so make it succinct. Go ahead.
I will try.
Okay, sorry to scare you.
I would just about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visiting Vrindavan, and we had a discussion with the devotees that it actually seems like a conspiracy of Balabhadra Bhattacharya and the Brahmin who was accompanying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that they decided, okay, it's too much, Mahaprabhu's ecstasies are too much, we better bring him out of Vrindavan. Mm-hmm. That's what we read externally. Now, there is this explanation that he could not really relish the mood of Srimati Radharani. Now, my question is there something, is there a place where it's to be like read, or is it something that Rasika devotee has to read in between the lines of the rasas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Okay, let me try to repeat what you said. It's a really good question, really deep question. That I was speaking about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Vrindavan because it's the place of Milan, of union, and you can't experience separation there. But we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who was a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he saw that Mahaprabhu's ecstasies were too much, and so we have to take him away from this place. So his question was, it seems like that there's a contradiction there. And is there any literature, any Goswami literature or something which describes, which reconciles these two things? And, or is it just something which we have to read between the lines? So yes, there's something in our Goswami literatures, but it's a bit in between the lines. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has described that Mahaprabhu, he fulfilled his three desires here in Jagannath Puri. He doesn't say that about Vrindavan. He doesn't say that anywhere else. He says, I can look up the verse real quick here. He says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the ecstasies that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experienced here in Jagannath Puri Dham were beyond anything that he experienced anywhere else. Yeah, here it is. Loki nahi deki achi, shastri nahi suni. No one's ever seen. Loki nahi deki. No one's ever seen. Shastri nahi suni. We've never heard from any shastra. Hena bhava vyakta kori nyasa chudamani. The ecstasies that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited in Jagannath Puri, nobody's ever heard of that before. So those ecstasies, that means the Lord's pleasure. And that's his purpose for coming to Jagannath Puri. It's his purpose for going to Vrindavan. He wants to relish that mood there. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to relish what Radharani's experienced. This is what is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He wanted to experience what Radharani was feeling in Madhanakya Mahabhav, in separation, during the Brahma Ragit, the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, which we've been speaking about on Tuesday mornings. He wanted to, and that's clearly described in several places in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He wanted to experience that feeling because that's the height of Radharani's ecstasy. So that's given. But as you point out, it's kind of in between the lines. And those in between the lines, I've heard from my Guru Maharaj and Fakir Mohan Prabhu, something about it. Is that okay, Leela Purushottam Prabhu?
Yeah, I'm sure it could go much longer.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Are you making ketchup, by the way?
Not now. Now I'm in Damodar.
Okay. When we talked to him last night, he was in our class. He was canning tomatoes. I just thought maybe he's making ketchup also. He grows nice organic vegetables and things.
I have a picture for you. I will send it to your WhatsApp later.
All right, I'd like to see. Okay, I want to turn to the devotees here in the room because they're getting a little restless and it's a little hard for them. Does anybody here have any reflections or comments or something? What prize did you win from the program today? Not that you want to eat fish. What prize did you get from our talk today? I'm sorry? Can you come up here, do you mind? And you can just put these on. We'll just talk into this right here, and this is not going to extend very far. And I'll go ahead and put this in so they can see you. And that's my person. That's good. Thank you very much for that.
So whatever he spoke, by that they understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always longed to be here in Puri.
He longs to be there.
Wherever he went, again he came back here, whether in Vrindavan or South India. But before Sachimata requested him, his first priority was to go to Vrindavan. Right. So how do we understand that?
Yes, very good. So it seems like there's two opposites, just like this Dham. It seems like there's a contradiction. There's two opposites in one place. This is a place of union. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was meeting Krishna here in the form of Jagannath. In the same mood, the gopis are meeting Krishna at Kurukshetra. That's union. And he's also experiencing union here because he's Krishna with Radharani, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. He's two opposites in one container. He himself is separation and union. He's the combined form, that's union. But he's primarily feeling separation. So that's the nature of this Dham. And tell me again your question. I'm a little... Yes, so in the beginning, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, And also in several books, Chaitanya Mangal, Mahaprabhu expressed a desire to go to Vrindavan. So how do we understand it? That we should understand. Raja Bhagavan Bhaje Satanayasta Dham Vrindavan. That verse, famous verse, was written by Srinath Chakravarti in his commentary on Chaitanya on Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's the Mangalacharna verse. That's the first verse. And he says, this is the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and nothing else. Tatapari Napara. This is the opinion of Mahaprabhu, that Vrindavan Dham is the topmost Dham. This is what he wants. But he can't get it paradoxically. You know the word paradox? He went to Vrindavan, but he couldn't experience Vrindavan in the way that he wanted, because all of a sudden he becomes Krishna. He wants to experience, to repay his debt. Krishna told the gopis, Napareham niravadhyasam yujam nasadu krityam vibudaya sapiva. I have this debt to you. I become a rini, a debtor. I have to repay. It's a debt of love. So when you have to repay a debt, it's according to the highest degree of money, right? That's that you have to repay. So the highest degree of Radharani's love is found in the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, called the Brahmara Gita. And that's Radharani's mad talks to the bumblebee. And that's when she's experiencing this Madhanakya Mahabhav, the highest level of her ecstasy. So that's what Krishna wants to experience. So naturally he wants to go to Vrindavan, but he goes to Vrindavan and then he can't do it because he is Krishna. So he has to go to a place which is two opposites in one container, Vrindavan, but not Vrindavan. And he comes to Jagannath Puri because this is not Vrindavan. And the ocean's here. But it is Vrindavan. It's Gupta Vrindavan. And that's a very big subject. We could give many different examples of Leela. Within Skanda Purana, Lord Shiva saw, when he did meditation on the bank of the Bhargavi River near Chandanpur, he saw Vrindavan Dham. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Jaiva Dharma describes how these two devotees are seeing Vrindavan Dham here. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Vrindavan Dham. He saw Govardhan Hill. He saw the forest as Vrindavan. He saw the ocean as a Jamuna. He saw Vrindavan here. So Vrindavan is manifested here, but a place is really manifest in a feeling. And for us, if we think about it, maybe you can go to a famous place like Yosemite National Park. Maybe you've heard of Yosemite, or the Grand Canyon in America. Everybody wants to go to America. And it's a nice place. It's a big hole in the ground. The Grand Canyon, you say, well, I went to that big hole and it was different colored rocks and it was really beautiful. And I saw that. But that doesn't make such an impression on you. Whereas living in your home with your mother, and you had a very intense, loving relationship with her, and maybe that home wasn't as beautiful as Yosemite National Park or the Grand Canyon, but you remember that home because of the love that you exchanged there. So really, we experience a place by the love, by the feelings that are given there. And this is why we come to Jagannath Puri. Why do we come here? Some people come here to go to the ocean and take bath. Some people come here to get some nice food or to have a good time in this way or that way. Why are we coming here? We're coming here because this place is scarred. You know the word scar, right? I have a scar on my thumb. When I was a young boy, I was climbing in the mountains and a rock fell in my hand. I have a scar there. So this place is scarred psychically from the bhajan, from the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. And this psychic scar, unlike a scar on my hand, which it won't be there in my next body that I take. Hopefully I won't take another body, but if I do, that scar won't be there. I have a different body. But these scars, these psychic scars, are still present. The place where Jagadananda Pandit did his bhajan, the place where Brahmananda Bharati did his bhajan, the place where Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami did their bhajan, the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did his bhajan. The ground, the air, the walls have been scarred. And so we want to go there and we want to experience some of that. How do we do that? We have to enter into that realm, and we enter into that realm by hearing. Srila Prabhupada once said, you don't see Vrindavan with your eyes. You see Vrindavan with your ears. Very good. So we want to enter into this Dham. Otherwise, you'll become very confused. You'll just see some pretty girls. You'll see some garbage on the street, some bad smells. You'll see some nice food you want to go and eat. You'll see a nice beach. And you'll just be in Maya. You won't see the real Dham, the proto-Maya, that the illusory energy of the Lord covers the Dham. And you're not going to enter into that. We enter into the Dham, Shutekshita Pata, on the pathway, the Pata of hearing, seeing through the ears. Shruta Ikshita. Ikshita means to see, so Shruta, through the ears. Is that okay? It's a very good, very deep question, very deep comment. Anybody else have any reflections? You have something else? Can you come up again? I'm sorry to trouble you. Yeah, it's nicer then. And they can hear you nicely. And I'll also flip the camera around so you can see more. You can tell your mother that you were hearing this thing.
So is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is revealing his mind through Sachimata because he wanted to be here, and Sachimata requested because geographically this place is closest to Navadip. That's why she requested Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to stay. So is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to reveal his mind through Sachimata?
Krishna speaks to the mouth of his devotees, as you're pointing out indirectly. And Krishna spoke, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to the mouth of Sachimata. And there's a Bahiranga Karn, an external reason why she requested her son to stay in Jagannath Puri, and that's because it's close, relatively, and there's people going back and forth. But there's also an Antaranga Karn, an internal reason. And because Sachimata, whether she's conscious of it or not, but all the devotees, they want to serve and help the particular mood of the Lord, whether they're conscious of it or not. All the residents of Vrindavan, they're not aware of Radha and Krishna. But Anvaya Vyatireka Bhyam, it says in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, directly and indirectly. Directly and indirectly, all the residents of Vrindavan want to bring Radha and Krishna together, even Jatila and Kutila. And they're doing it in their crooked kind of way through criticizing and whatever like that. So Sachimata is no exception. Internally, may not be conscious. It's not conscious for Jatila and Kutila. It's not conscious for Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda wants to bring Radha and Krishna together, but she's not thinking that. She's thinking that Durvasa Muni gave a blessing to Radharani that anything that she cooks, nobody will become sick. And that's why I want her to cook for my son. But that's an extra, but internally, something she doesn't even see. She's wanting to bring Radha and Krishna together. And so similarly, Sachimata, she understands intuitively inside that Krishna's Mahaprabhu was acting through her and making her say this thing because he wants to come here. Because this place, it's another topic we didn't touch on. There's so many topics. What is the name of this Dham? The name of this Dham is Sri Kshetra. And my Guru Maharaj comments about this, that there's a particular special meaning to that in the book Embankment of Separation. And let me read you what he says. Jagannath Puri Dham is known as Sri Kshetra. I'm using the real pronunciation instead of Sri Kshetra. Sri Devi is the Sarup Shakti, Krishna's internal potency. Therefore, that Dham, which is glorified by the presence of the Sri Shakti, is known as Sri Kshetra. Sri means Sarva Lakshmi Moyi Angsini Radhika. Shrimati Radhika is the source of all Shaktis. Those who are followers or devotees of Madhurya Ras can see that Sri Kshetra is the Kshetra in which Radharani's Madhurya Ras is manifested. Only such Madhurya Ras bhaktas can see it, others cannot. That is why Jagannath Puri is known as Sri Kshetra. And Mahaprabhu stayed there because he'd assumed Radha Bhav. Upon seeing Jagannath, he would see Sham Sundar and think, oh, beloved of my heart. Therefore, that Kshetra, which is glorified and influenced by Radharani's Madhurya Ras, is known as Sri Kshetra. So yes, he had this internal desire to come here. But in one sense, also perhaps with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it also wasn't a conscious thing. It was a conscious thing to some extent. We read in Chaitanya Bhagavat that as soon as he took sannyas, he told Kesava Bharati, now please give me permission to go to Jagannath Puri. And that sannyas means Radha Bhav. When someone takes sannyas in our line, they get a gopi mantra. They're meditating on themselves being a gopi. And so then he left Jagannath, he left Navadvip, which is the place of so many different rasas. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika buddhi eke hakuru nandana bahusakyaganantascha buddhiya vyavisaina. That to be on this path of love, you have to be one-pointed. But Krishna's not one-pointed. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip is also not one-pointed. He's reciprocating with Sachimata. He's reciprocating with Murari Gupta. He's reciprocating with Nilambara Chakravarti. He's reciprocating with Vishnu Priya, his wife, and so many different devotees and so many different rasas. But he's come to repay the debt to Radha. And to repay that debt, he can't be Bahusaka. He can't be multi-branch. He has to be Vyavasyatmika Buddhi Ekeha. He has to be Ekantik. And that Ekantik means Radharani's mood. That Ekantik means sannyas. So he takes sannyas and he runs, he leaves Navadvip, and he comes to Jagannath Puri, where he can taste Radharani's mood. And many, many things to say about this. And sometimes it takes some time to digest and think about. And that will come through our Nam Bhajan. And that hopefully will also come when we walk the streets of Puri. And we hear these kathas together. We take Jagannath Mahaprasad. Just like if you want to go to a foreign country, a few things are required. Number one, you have to have a passport. So for me, I'm a Bideshi. I have to have a passport to come into the country. But even if I have a passport, I have a US passport. But even with my US passport, that's not enough. When I come to the border to enter India, they're going to say, hey, Prabhu Nishad, you can't enter. Because they also want a visa, right? So the passport is my Gurudev. That passport is your country that you belong to, that you identify with. So to enter the Dham, we need this passport. We have our passport. You're all following Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is our passport. And we're coming here wanting to serve Prabhupada. But it's not enough just to have a passport. You also have to have a visa. And what's the visa to enter this Dham? The visa is loud chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Very good. That's the passport. Because even if you come, I have a good visa, I have a good passport, but you need to have the visa. That's the visa. Right? You have to chant very, very sincerely. And that chanting will open the doors for us. Okay? Anybody else with anything? Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and stop, and we want to do a little kirtan, something here. Okay, Amritesh Gaur Prabhu, would I have your permission to stop? We talked for a long time now.
Yes, so very nice it was there with all of them.
See, Amritesh Gaur Prabhu is one of the directors in Bhubaneswar for the IYF there. And it teaches us you have to be nice to the IYF directors, isn't it? It's very important. Otherwise,
Karan Prabhu had some DT service, so he just went.
I understand. Otherwise, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu won't be happy with you. Probably won't be really happy with you. Okay. So thank you very much, Amritesh Gaur Prabhu, Leela Purushottam Prabhu, and all the different devotees. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladesh Mati Subhadrimai Sudarshanju ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari. Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha. Kripa Sindhu Bhyaeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananda Kori Vaishnava Brinda ki jai.